Welcome, Lara.
Hi, how you going?
Yeah, really good. Thank you so much for joining us. And obviously, you are a resident mentor at GrowthGen, and we're so excited to have you on board because you just joined us just last month, and you're our health resident mentor, which is really cool to have. So, like I said, at GrowthGen, we talk about life and business. So the health aspect is as important as it is in the business side of things. So. And in saying that, I want to start by trying to find out more about how to energize our staff and our team and really create a wellness culture around us so that they become better workers and better leaders, really. So can you answer that?
Yeah, I think the first thing that you mentioned and touched on was the idea of being healthy within ourselves. And I think that would probably be our foundation in terms of at MaxFit. We work with a lot of small business owners. We work with a lot of executives and people that have very high pressure jobs, not to mention having families of their own. And we get a lot of people coming in with physical health conditions as well as obvious burnout, because we are a mental health, space, and our gym is very much focused around mental health. We also do treat a lot or work with a lot of people that have had anxiety, depression, or burnout. And so we really try and help people get healthy again. So it's actually not a gym that's about, getting big and losing weight and all those things, even though they're byproducts. The main thing that we're focusing on is healthy foundations and making sure that people are knowing their limits and being able to work within their limits. We try and foster a little bit of an idea, just to give you an idea, is when we run a business, as everyone knows, because obviously we're running a business, one of the things we need is to have our staff on board, but we also need to be on board for our staff. What we notice is that we are getting a lot of people coming in saying, I'm just burning the candle at both ends. I'm not getting any support, from my boss, or there's inter-office disagreements, et cetera, et cetera. And they're the things that we're trying to help our staff manage in terms of building that healthy culture and helping other managers or other small business owners get to a point where they can know how to manage themselves and then help to manage other people as well. And so essentially it's investing in yourself and investing in your staff rather than asking for all that output all the time, which I'm sure I wasn't able to get on for this morning for the earlier part of the summit because I was working and I've got a sick child at home. So hopefully she stays watching her iPad while I'm talking to you all. But yeah, I think that the main thing that we're trying to look at here is just investing in self. Did you want me to go into a little bit of what that might look like?
Yeah, please do. Obviously that's where we started. So we want to give people as many golden nuggets as possible around that.
Of course. I think one of the main, we talk at MaxFit when we're working with our clients, the most important thing is to have to incorporate these four aspects. So you've got your physical health, you've got your mental health, you've got your spiritual health, and then you've got your emotional health, and all of those things that work in together to sort of build that whole. Now, in terms of physical health, we're definitely there to help people maintain that. And if you're not maintaining that physical health aspect, you're going to notice things like pain, discomfort, especially, and then that transfers into a lower work output. Also, if you're in physical pain or discomfort, you're probably also going to notice that your concentration is down because you're being completely swayed by the pain, etc. So we really want people to get to a point where they learn how to look after their physical health. Now, under the physical health, we have aspects of stress management, nutrition, sleep, and of course the exercise. So they're the things that we really would try and encourage people to focus on. I can go into all of those separately. Maybe a bit later I can talk about how we can incorporate that into the workspace. But I would really suggest that if you are someone that is leading a business and you're struggling with any of those aspects of your health, it might be a good idea to get some support around that. So therefore you are in a better space to be able to support those that are in your team.
Yeah, so let's, why don't we touch on some of those topics now, and then we'll come back to the rest. So I'm really interested in the physical health, because that's the one that's being always highlighted out there. And it's such a big part of our culture, losing weight. It's almost become, isn't it? It's almost become it's such a big part of the Western culture, if you want to call it. Like,
yeah, totally. I mean,
yeah.
I actually have a real problem with it. So
That's what I mean. I want to get to that. I want to see
yeah.
what you think about this, because it really is like the way it's being advertised out there, or
Yeah.
the marketers play onto how to lose weight, or all those things. There's so many different types of diets out there. What's your thoughts around that, Lara?
So we reject diet culture at MaxFit. We don't play into it because weight loss is damaging. It's damaging for a lot of different reasons, majorly around your mental health, but also around your interaction with others. Diet culture is all about shrinking bodies. It's all about restrictive diets and trying to lose weight for what I'm not exactly sure. Because what we actually have noticed, if you look at a lot of the evidence that's coming out around diet culture, there really is not a lot of positive results in terms of health, especially around mental health. What we're trying to move towards is to actually build a strong foundation, and a strong foundation actually involves lifting quite heavy weights. Now, I know some people are like, oh, weightlifting, here she goes promoting the gym. But in terms of, there are so many benefits. We're actually running a great seminar this Thursday night on the benefits of strength and conditioning training. The reason strength and conditioning training is getting a lot of popularity, or the popularity is building around strength and conditioning training, is that when you use weights, you basically are changing your body composition. So you do develop more lean muscle mass. And as you're probably aware, muscle is expensive. So in terms of your calorie intake, it requires a lot of calories to be able to maintain that muscle mass. When you lift weights, not only are you improving your muscle mass, but you're also increasing your insulin sensitivity. Insulin sensitivity is basically the way the body's able to utilize the energy, or like the carbohydrate that we take into our body. It's a long, complicated process. Basically, if the more that you train with weights, the better off you are with utilizing the energy that we take in. Basically, that's how you can sum it up. That will then in turn prevent things like diabetes, or like type 2 diabetes, or any insulin resistance type metabolic disorder. So that's why weight-based training is important physically as well as correctively. Like, I mean, you're going to correct a lot of the issues that you probably have sitting at a desk like this, or it depends on what type of work you're involved in. But often we're not considering the way we move, the way we lift, the way we are so sedentary in the lifestyles that we lead, especially if we're running businesses or a part of a business that is demanding a lot of their staff. It's important to be able to maintain good posture and manage like your core stability and your strength to be able to continue to do what you're able to do. And that's just the physical side. There's so many more benefits, obviously, to that. But from a mental health perspective, which is obviously the area that we're super interested in, is it just helps with the release of endorphins and maintaining that dopamine and serotonin response. So we really do recommend lifting weights. Alongside that, we do, the cardio aspect's important to be able to, make sure that metabolism's burning at a good rate, and that the heart is getting a good workout, not just a stress workout. Because obviously when we're stressed, our heart rate increases. So it's getting a good non-exhaustive workout in terms of stress workout. And also Pilates. We run Pilates. We really recommend that. It's a great way to bring that sympathetic response back down into the parasympathetic state, where you will be able to find that you are more relaxed, and that you're not sort of on that higher end of heart rate, and that your body is actually in a state where it can, as they say, rest and digest and process in terms of your executive or brain function.
Yeah, that's some great insights there, Lara. We, weight training is something that I think only got a little bit more popular in the past couple of years. I would say 5 to 6 years, would you say?
I probably would.
It wasn't as prominent as it used to be, was it?
Well, it's really interesting because the trends within the industry, and it's within the health industry generally, not just the fitness industry, is that a lot of the research comes out. Probably all this research was coming about sort of 15 to 20 years ago. And that research has only started to be implemented recently. When I say recently, within the last 10 years. Yeah. So usually when we start to get a whole about like a huge meta-analysis that takes place, for example, so longitudinal multiple studies over many years, when those take place, you usually tend to see the shift happen with over a 10-year period. I mean, so you've still got certain GPs buying into diet culture. Well,
Yeah.
you need to restrict the amount of food you're eating. So only eat 1,000 calories or 800 calories a day, which then puts the individual into a state of, I guess, starvation, because that is the equivalent to what a toddler might require to maintain their daily needs. And so people then, they restrict, they start to crave, they then binge, then they restrict, crave, binge, and the cycle just continues. So we really reject that. And we've got a much healthier approach to the way that we help people manage their weight, and not necessarily lose weight, but manage their weight. And if there is at a point where it is, becoming quite dangerous, there's ways that we help you do that without putting in this massive amount of restriction.
Well, I want to challenge you then. You run your own business.
Yes.
And you obviously have a gym. So, business owners right now are thinking to themselves, well, she runs a gym. It's a lot more easier for her to maintain a great wellness culture.
Yeah.
Can I ask then, what are some foundations for yourself of a good culture in your own business? Because, we know that there's going to be the health side of things, but what other things do you have around that?
Yeah, so it's funny, like running a gym, it's like, I think people might feel it's different to what it actually is, because we are in a gym, but at the same time, we start sometimes at 5 a.m., finish at 8 p.m. We have split shifts. There's like the amount of physical energy that's required to, set up, move things around. We're running classes. So yeah, we get really tired. And so sometimes when you're in that work culture, coming to work out yourself can be a little bit like, I've been at it all day. I can't, it's like that typical, the builder whose house is never finished.
Yep.
I think it can kind of fit into that category a little bit for us sometimes. But in terms of the foundations that we have in our culture, it's actually a little different. And I think, I think you've mentioned I've worked in the industry for over 20 years. I've managed, people that are in paid work and volunteered work before. And I think the most important thing that I've worked in, especially within leadership roles in in different arenas, whereas the public sector or private sector, the foundations that I have found have built the best culture are foundations that are around sort of four main principles. For us, it's integrity, kindness, generosity, and responsibility. And they're the things that we really try and encourage for all of our staff. So when I say that, I think it's the integrity for us is our number one. And with integrity, that incorporates like the ethics that you are operating under. Yeah. So maintaining true to that ethical or the code of practice in which you want to operate under. So setting that, I think, just talking before about making sure that you understand the vision that you're working under and being able to maintain integrity to the vision. And so that's very important for us. And always operating out of kindness and assuming, the best in people. And that's that generosity piece as well. So for us, we try and be generous with assuming the best in people and acting in a kind way. But then on the flip side as well, like there is that responsibility piece. So if, you've got these amazing rights and privileges within a workplace, there are certain levels of responsibility that you need to kind of maintain and uphold. But I think, with all of that, it comes under the banner of communication and having good communication. And I think that within our staff, some of you, I know, like you were saying, some people, how many people are being managed in some of the businesses that are in the community? You were saying, Ayub, was it over?
So we have business owners that have anywhere between 3 or all up to 250.
Yeah, 250. I think that's what you said to me. I was like, well, I'm glad that's not me. But we have about 10, 11 staff that work with us. And so it's not a huge business, but in terms of making sure that they're looked after is really important, because we are in face-to-face with the public. We're dealing with people that have got issues, that stem from all the way back to major physical illness through to mental health issues, through to, family issues. So it is really important that our staff are being looked after. And that we're being able to communicate with each other. We make sure that we meet as a team. Because we are with each other quite a lot, but we meet regularly to have a staff meeting, and then we have monthly checkups. So like myself and my husband who run our business, we'll make sure that we meet with our staff once a month it's not really KPIs, but it's sort of like a check-in just to see how we're both going and if there's anything they need to bring up, and they know that that's a safe space, that there's nothing that they can't discuss, that we're very open to, the growth mindset and that learning framework, so that, if mistakes have been made, that's okay. That's how we learn. And we want to kind of press forward within that.
Yeah. So in saying that, the health industry, a lot of things seem like they need to be micromanaged, would you say, just because of the the amount of things that you, compliance wise, the amount
look, it's a nightmare. It's honestly, like, because I think the thing with the health industry, and it seems like it's so overly regulated, but then in other areas it's under-regulated. But it's a very difficult industry to be a part of, to be honest. And especially coming from, my background is in health. So I worked for the Department of Health for over 10 years, both in Australia and in the UK. And, the paperwork is incredible. And at least, in this industry, like, the paperwork isn't as intense, but it's still there. But I think what's more important is in turn, like, making sure that each client is getting, you've got a 40-minute window with people if they're doing PT or you've got a class, and making sure that people are lifting with correct technique, making sure their breath is, the right in terms of your exertion, and when you're breathing out, making sure the core is engaged, all these tiny little things that need to be addressed by our staff. But not just that, it's also like paperwork. It's whether we're maintaining those standards that we've, addressed within our staff. But I think the biggest thing for us is limiting micromanaging. I think that micromanaging is probably one of the worst things that can happen in a business culture. And I've just seen it go pear-shaped so many times. So I have been micromanaged in the past. I think that affected my mental health more than anything else. And I think not just the micromanagement, but also being careful that there's not, manipulation going on. I'm not saying that anyone in this community that would happen, but just making sure that we're managing other staff, that, making sure that all staff are on the same page, and that we're not, the culture that we're setting is inclusive, and that people have autonomy within their workplace, that they're able to communicate if there are any concerns, rather than having to sit under, another colleague or a manager that is just writing them or trying to micromanage. And you know what I mean by micromanage, right? Everyone. Yeah.
I mean, Eden mentioned it earlier, one of our guest speakers as well. So she said, she had to learn how to let go of micromanaging staff. I think a lot of small business owners actually start out that way. They start by micromanaging first, and then they kind of build those skills to let go a bit more, so that they can trust their staff and empower them to make those right decisions. And I'm pretty sure that Paul will be talking about this later onwards, because he's a HR expert as well. So, micromanagement is a challenge for a lot of small business owners as a whole. But also, the part that you were talking about earlier about communication is a huge one. Again, something else that Eden mentioned as well earlier. So it's kind of showing all the key trends around what staff are not looking for out there. So I'm glad you mentioned that.
Yeah, and I think as well, just really that whole growth mindset piece for people to understand that mistakes are going to happen because you're human, and to be able to have that open kind of discussion around, well, what went wrong? How can we manage that next time? What support as a manager can I give to you to help you manage that most effectively? And then also giving them back that trust and saying, you know what, it's okay, you made a mistake, I still trust you. Because I mean, the reality is, and especially in our industry, staff retention is really difficult. So, and our boys have often said, obviously they're getting paid well, but they've said that they've never sort of been in a space where it is this easy to come to work. And they work really hard. And so, and we just feel very fortunate to have the amount of support that we have, because, running a business plus having, 4 young kids, it can be a lot. So we do rely on our staff, and they know that, and they appreciate just the way that the culture has evolved. And they're part of that culture. They've helped us with that culture as well.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Amazing. You're doing it with 4 kids. There you go, everyone.
Not,
Just in case you didn't hear that.
but
Just in case you didn't hear that, I want to make sure. Fantastic. So in saying that, though, obviously we've talked about the micromanaging part. There is some boundaries that you need to meet as well with your staff, and because it sounds like you have a really quite an open and transparent culture. Is that correct?
Yeah, we do. I mean, I think it could be part. Look, it's not for everyone. I understand that, but my background, obviously being in social work and working within, that social policy and social, like a lot of the, I guess, workplace culture work that I have done would come under the banner of, like reading through different commentators. Perhaps, I don't know, most people probably have heard of Brené Brown, but she's a social worker who has done a lot of work around authenticity, vulnerability, boundary setting, just bringing that real self out within not just like interpersonal relationships, but also within organizational culture. So she talks a lot about the importance of vulnerability and authenticity within culture. And when I say vulnerability and authenticity, people initially are kind of like, oh, I'm not being vulnerable with my staff. Like, I need to make sure I maintain boundaries. But this is the whole point. Learning how to set boundaries well and allows us to be vulnerable and authentic, because we're not disclosing parts of ourselves that are inappropriate. We're disclosing parts of ourselves that make us human. So things like the struggle that we might have, like, it's fine for me to say to my staff, you know what, like, I'm really struggling a little bit today. Last night, my 3-year-old was up till like at 4 a.m. And so I'm up early to get, so I haven't had the sleep that I need, and I'm probably not going to be on my A game today. So like just little things like that, that's your communication. There's your authenticity and your vulnerability. Also, sometimes even interacting with certain staff, and if they're struggling with something, maybe it's a matter of just opening up with a small, well, actually, I've struggled with that too in the past. This is how I managed it. It's not disclosing the innermost parts of self. That's not what vulnerability is, and that's not what authenticity is. It's just allowing that human side to be able to come out a little bit within the workplace, and so that people can see that struggle is actually okay and it's real, and I personally believe that's what's actually needed to be able to create a really good culture, is to be able to feel like we can be open and real about who we are within the boundaries. So when I'm talking about boundaries, the way that we talk about it is just what we are willing to tolerate and not tolerate, or to accept, not to accept. And so like within that, sometimes that itself evolves. So you might have like a blanket set, of policies or procedures or precedents that you guys are working under. But as things evolve, those might evolve with it too. And that kind of with discussion or whatever else it might be. But like I said, it's that trying to operate those boundaries within a way that is generous towards others and assuming the best with others, so that you can still be that true and authentic self.
Love everything that you said. My God, I can't wait to share this recording. It's fantastic. It really, yeah, no, it is because everything that you said resonates so well with me. With small business owners, when we start out, we really do get caught up in the day-to-day, that we forget to take a step back and just notice those things, just being vulnerable and opening up to your staff so that they can help you in the way they've just helped you today. What a great way to have, what a great relationship to have with your staff, and I have to encourage everyone to listen to this and definitely try and take the steps towards that. So in finishing off, or what are some good health initiatives that you can recommend for staff, for business owners and their staff?
Yeah, I think obviously, like from that mental health side of things and from connecting with staff, I think it's really nice to be able to like have nights out, or even like going out for lunch or going out for a coffee. Sometimes I was saying to you before when we were talking about this, we do, like, because we're working quite long shifts, we'll often be like, all right, who's on coffee break? And they'll just take my card and go grab coffees for everyone. We'll often go out, just grab, like some sushi or whatever else it is for lunch while we're on our breaks together. And then we've organized some nights out and things like that. I did something silly for Christmas and I bought them all matching shoes. So I got them made up Metcon 7s, which are lifting shoes. And then at the back, it's got MaxFit. Awesome. So they've all got matching shoes, like just little things like that, just, fun, silly things, just to sort of help, like that's that generosity, just trying to be kind and make sure everyone feels included and welcome. I think for us as well, like it can be difficult with the gym, but flexible working hours. So like, obviously we do a face-to-face business, but if the boys need time off or the girls need time off, we'll just say, please just let us know what you need and we will work in with that. And because everyone's got each other's back, it's like, well, if you need that, I'll do that. And then we can swap. And just having that, it's, letting people run their own show sometimes. I think it's really important that people don't feel trapped.
The empowerment piece that we were talking about.
Yeah. And I think like stats are showing, I can put it up for you to show it, but there was like a really good study done with people like reporting like just how much better it is for them to go to work with a flexible working environment. And I think within that, it's like with the ability to stay at home if you need to, or I can go into the office. And it's like, it's just that, because, what happens if you do have a sick child? Do you call in sick because you can't be in the office? Well, no, I'm still getting all my work done, but I'm doing it at home and I'm doing it via Zoom, or I'm, that kind of thing, just allowing people, and trusting that people will get their work done. Yeah. I think it's really important. I'll run through these quickly because I know we don't have enough time.
That's okay.
This is a big one.
Yeah.
Paying for gym memberships, or if that's too much, because not everyone's going to go, right? Yeah. Maybe about organising someone to come to the workspace to run a Pilates class, or to teach breathing, or to teach some stretching, that sort of stuff. I would also encourage movement as much as possible. So sometimes like it might just be, okay, lunch break, everyone, let's just get up, go for 5 minutes, or coffee break. Let's just, before our coffee comes, we're all just going to go for a 5-minute walk around. So we've got like a big building. So we'll just walk around that just to get out and moving, because obviously you want to keep moving. Sedentary is terrible.
I want to add one more thing. September. Yes, we're raising funds for the CPA. So please join me in taking those steps, 10,000 steps a day. So
good.
This is my plug-in while I'm here, Lara.
Yeah, but the benefits for you raising the money, absolutely. And also the benefits like in terms of your health. 10,000 steps sounds a lot, but let me encourage you. If you're only doing 3,000 steps, maybe next week try and do 4,000 steps. And then maybe the week after you can do 4,500 steps per day. But the idea is to slowly build on the habits. And I'm a big fan of James Clear, who's written Atomic Habits. If you haven't read the book, I would suggest reading it. It will change your life. The small 1%ers are what make the big change. And that's how we run our business. So if you don't feel like you can get in 10,000 steps, don't even try. It's just going to put you off. Just go for half that, go for 5,000.
In saying that, Lara, I think it's because I'm raising it for a good friend of mine.
Yeah.
I'm totally motivated. And I'm just going for 10,000 steps a day, and I'm not missing a heartbeat, and I'm not thinking about, do you know what I mean? Oh, it's going to take me long or anything like that. I think it's the motivation. The motivation also helps, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. But that's the thing. What you could do at work, this is just a little idea in terms of initiatives, is maybe you could say to everybody, all right, we're going to try this week. All of us have got to get 8,000 steps or 7,000 or whatever you guys include. And then keep each other accountable every week. Yeah. And you could do prizes at the end, or I don't know, Uber Eats or whatever, healthy Uber Eats at the end. Hey, grilled is healthy. Grilled Uber Eats or Porto. Just stay away from Macca's. It's terrible. So just also the other thing I was going to say, in terms of the initiatives for staff, one thing that's really helpful is the professional development piece. So professional development around areas of interest and looking at where people are really passionate and how it links in with your business and how you can potentially help people with their CPEs or whatever else it is that they need to maintain accreditation. But getting, rather than, I don't know, for us, we always try and cover half. So like we'll say, what is it that you're interested in learning? Well, let us pay for half of that course. And if it's outside of the allocated CPE stuff that we naturally would normally do. The other thing I'll quickly, just because I'm running through these quickly, sorry. Stress management techniques. And I know you wanted me to talk about this one, so I'll just quickly finish with it, is the stretching and the breathing aspect. So with us sitting in this position all the time, what it's actually doing is it's actually increasing the stress response, because that is a protective mechanism in terms of that sympathetic state, and we'll often go into that state when we're quite stressed. So one of the really helpful things to do when we breathe is that actually, if we turn and interlock the hands behind and just lifting up, taking a breath in, and then slowly breathing out, and then breathing in, and then out. And if you're just doing that a few times, if you don't feel like you can get to a point where you're opening up, still breathe, because there's a couple of different methods for breathing, but one of the best ones is taking a really deep breath in and holding, and then slowly releasing. Now, we're not doing it to get rid of the anxiety and stress. Try and think about it. I'm actually doing this to relax my body so that I can think more clearly through what I'm doing, because often when we're very stressed, the adrenals kick in and it shuts down our frontal lobe, which is responsible for planning, executive functioning, impulse control. So if we're very anxious, we're not going to be actually concentrating and, you know, doing what we, or outputting what we normally would. So taking those deep breaths, slowing everything down over the day will actually really help just to calm you down and bring you back into a parasympathetic state.
That's amazing, Lara. What a great Q&A. Thank you so much for joining me today. I mean, everyone, please, can I hear your comments? I want to see them coming down, because I know that this was a fantastic session. So thank you so much for joining us, Lara, and we'll be back soon.
All right. Thank you.